Hello everybody, Roger here again, and today I'm just going to take a walk from downtown Sointala towards Kotiranta or Dickinson Point. So let's go. So this is Kotiranta. In Finnish it means home shore, and I'm walking towards Kotiranta, which means home point, and the Finns called it home point because they knew once they came around that point, they would soon be home. And here I'm scrolling back, looking back at the town of Sointala, or Koti, which means home in Finnish. And this is what the old Williams boathouse looks like from the beach side. I showed you in a previous video what the Williams boathouse looked like from the road on First Street. This is from the beach looking up. I think it was 2018 or something around then, there was a storm that knocked half the building down. It was built in the 1950s, and they built fishing boats in here a long time ago. So looking off into the distance, that far point on Malcolm Island, that is called Halkosenniemi in Finnish, and it's named after homesteaders that were in the area. I think their names were Halkonens or Halkosens or something. I don't know much about them, but that point is called Halkosenniemi. Now looking over this way off in the distance there, it's not a very clear day, but you're looking towards Ledge Point and the town of Port McNeill over on northern Vancouver Island. And scrolling over this way, there we have Haddington Island, which I've said in previous videos. It's named after the 9th Earl of Haddington. And on the other side of that island is the andesite quarry, where they quarried the andesite to build the Parliament buildings in Victoria. And in Finnish again, it's called Kivisaari, which means Rock Island. And I'm just walking down Kotiranta here, home shore. And I'll talk more when I see something interesting to talk about. I'm just going to zoom in here towards Ledge Point. Now that mountain just behind Ledge Point there on northern Vancouver Island, it has a nickname I grew up with, and they called it the Tit Mountains, and because it looks like a woman's breasts. Unfortunately, last year in 2024 they logged it, so it's not as nice looking as it once was. But that would be right over there, the Tit Mountains. And as you're walking the beaches, you're usually looking down, seeing if there's any treasures. You can find beach glass, and whatever washes up in the high tide mark. There's some examples of some of the beach glass you could find down on the beaches here around Sointala. Blue is a little bit more rare these days, but you find lots of brown and greens from old-fashioned bottles. And I'm just going for a walk on the beach with my mom. Say hi, Mom.
Hello.
That's my mom. And looking up, you can see some pretty cool buildings here in Sointala along the beaches. Here's a neat shake building here. You can see looks like a motorcycle on the side. This one's it's an old sauna. It's got some little fish on the left side here. And you're looking over at this crooked building. Is an old studio on the beach. Has some character to it. And we're going to take a walk down where all those trees are, closer to Kotiranta there, and I'll tell you more about that area. It's actually a property that my family owns, and we've owned it since 1949, all those trees down there. And that's where my mother grew up. So I'll talk more about it once we approach. So this whole strip of trees here going off into the point, it's actually the largest waterfront property in downtown Sointala. It's 155 meters of waterfront, and it's been in the family since 1949, and this is where my mother grew up, and I'm hopefully going to get her to tell some stories about this spot. But it's a beautiful spot to watch the sunsets, because over there, as you can see, the sun is starting to set off into the distance. I'm just walking just into the woods here just a little bit, just to show you what's left of. This is the house my mother grew up in. There's not much left of it. It's been through a couple of fires, and it was always in ruins when I was a kid. And this is what's left of the house my mother grew up in. Okay, I just gotta go catch up to my mom. She's almost at the boathouse there. And here's the boathouse, what's left of the boathouse. No, there's not much left of it, is there? So I just had to dig out this book out of my collection of history books here, and I recommend this one. It's by Paula Wilde, called Sointala, and it's all about our history. So I talk a lot about history. I wanted to show you one picture here. It's on page 178, and this is actually a photo of the area where my mother grew up. We called it the graveyard property. And you could see the boathouse right here. Beside the boathouse was a sauna. And then over here is that house that I just showed you. That was in ruins. The only building that still remains to this day is this one here. But this is what it used to look like in 1974. Where did you grow up? That way?
Nothing there no more.
No.
Because our alders going on the back end of the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not much left of the old boathouse. Now up there, as I zoom in, up in the trees, it's the only building that still stands here at what we call the graveyard property. It's called that because it borders the Sointala Cemetery. And that was at one time the shoemaker's house, and my mom bought it and had it moved here, and she lived in it with my sister. My house, old private property, no trespassing sign that my mother would have put up a long time ago. And we're almost at the point. I'm just going to take a detour up onto the property and go check out that house on the property, make sure no one's busted in or anything. And at one time, you could see here what's left going through the slough patch here was a road that you could drive right to the point, but it's all grown in. The property's about just over 1 acre. It's kind of like a wedge-shaped property that borders the beach, and up behind the fence here is the Sointala Cemetery. And I'll walk through the cemetery on another day in another video. We'll explore the cemetery. Right now I'm just taking a walk along the property's edge, heading towards the old house here. What's left of it. This is the old house. And at one time, this was the shoemaker's house. And it used to be at Dickinson Point, or Kotiranta at the point. And my mom had it moved here. And she moved to this property from Rauhala when my oldest sister was ready to go to school, so she could be in town closer to school. And I'm just walking along the fence line. To my right is the cemetery, just showing you the old property where my mother grew up. Here I'm heading towards, right there you see this big bush. That is one of those heritage rhodos. And it's a light pale pink rhodo, and a lot of the old time properties, heritage properties on the island will have one of these rhodos. They were originally brought here by the Manta family, and in behind it is the ruins of the house my mother grew up in. Over here is what's left of the water tower. So when I was a kid, there was this big water tower here, and you could see there's the well ring there, and it was just covering the well. Okay, I'm gonna head back to the beach. I was just looking through an album of reprints of old photos here and came across these pictures of the graveyard property. Here you could see the water tower and what the old house used to look like. And then here's the boathouse, and that boat on the beach would be my grandfather's boat called the Nati. And down here is looking towards the graveyard, you're looking from the graveyard property towards the town of Sointala. And that tree you see there is still there. It's that one that's leaning over on the beach. And here's looking down towards, going down that road towards the boathouse. Here's a view. You can see what's left of the boathouse down there. And it's a beautiful property, but we are selling it. So if anybody's interested, this is what it looks like, giving you a virtual tour. So I'm heading back down to the beach here. And this is the view. Panning over to Sointala over there. Malcolm Island, Olkosunimi in the distance. Looking at northern Vancouver Island, Port McNeill. We're following along Kotiranta here. There's Kivisari looking towards Kotinimi. And we'll carry on walking down towards Kotinimi. And just up in here, I'm going to show you what remains of an old-time fishing boat of my grandfather's. And at one time, there's about 4 of them along the beach here. This is one that's still still around, just off the beach. Right, I'm about to pass the point here at Kotiranta or Dickinson Point. Heading around the bend. I'll take one more. Oh, there's my mother in the distance. Catch up to her. And I'll take one more look back. Looking back down towards Sointla. Now, there wasn't always a house here. When I was growing up, this was at Dickinson Point here. This was like where the road crew had a shed. But along the fence line, there is a grave on the outside of the cemetery on the fence line on this property here. And he was a friend of the old-time fishermen, and because he wasn't part of the town of Sointla, they didn't let him be buried in the cemetery. So the Finns, who were friends, the fishermen's friends of this guy, buried him on the outside of the cemetery. We'll explore that when I go do a video about the Sointla Cemetery. And we're looking out towards Hyde Creek. We explored that in a previous video. And this is the view from Kotiranta, looking towards Haddington Island. And here we are. That's Cormorant Island, or Alert Bay, way off in the distance. And the Island Aurora ferry, tiny white speck heading towards Alert Bay. And it looks like it's low tide, but I'm not going to go exploring the low tide mark today. I'm going to head up here pretty soon and head back home. And we'll explore some more in another video. And here we have an original drawing done by my grandfather, Mike Polton. And it's based off of a plan map from 1924. And I'm trying to show it here without too much glare. And here we go, that's a little better. But you could see who lived in the blocks in the area. And here is, in block A, is the Sointla Cemetery, and that wedge along the beach there, that's the graveyard property where my mom grew up. You can see there's a trail going to First Street there. You can see the boathouse and all the little buildings that were once in the area. Alright, just gonna climb back up to the road here from Kotiranta. This is like a hedge of salmonberry and Himalayan blackberry. I should say my great-grandfather, Herman Potu, is the one who brought the blackberry bush to the Finnish settlers on Malcolm Island when he worked down in Ladysmith. And in the old days, all the farmers used to have a blackberry bush. And this is a patch here that a lot of the locals come and pick from. And you'll see me doing that later on in the year. And here is the junction where First Street meets Second Street, and First Street turns into Kaliva Road. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this video walking with me through the beaches in downtown Sointla at Kotiranta, and I will see you all in the next video. Ciao.